There we go.
There we go.
All right. Do we have a quorum?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Yes, very much so.
Okay. Then the regular meeting of the Auburn Industrial Development Authority will come to order. First order of business is roll call.
Mr. Dacey,
Here.
Mr. Andre,
Present.
Ms. Weber McLeod,
Present.
Mr. Cuddy,
Here.
Ms. McIntyre, Mr. Giantino.
Here.
Mr. Gravis. Mr. Beer. Mr. Gasper.
Here.
This is Roger Beer. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Taylor, I think Katie just came in.
Okay.
Okay, minutes for review and approval. The minutes of March 17th, the regular meeting minutes, and the audit committee meeting minutes. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll
Second. Okay.
Okay, any discussion? Changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Bills and communications. Buffington and Holland CPAs.
So for the month of April, the bills we had were Buffington and Holton for $3,800. We have the CETA admin invoice, which came to $5,102.28. And then we have TGW for $3,000, which is part of their monthly support payment. So this is month 2 out of 6.
This is month 2 out of 6 on the 3,000?
Yes.
Okay, I see that. Okay. Do I have a motion to group the payments?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions on the payments?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question on the audit. This is the second bill, the 3,800. Do you remember what the first one was? I was just trying to check it. Or I guess maybe what I should say is the professional. So that's the total amount then is $6,750, Tracy, for.
The first amount for Buffington was $2,700.
Gotcha. So is that the total? Is 27 plus the 35?
The 38.
38?
Yeah, that'll be it.
Okay. I think that's good. I would just say that's consistent with their original proposal.
That totals
Thank you.
out of 65, so,
Yeah, thank you.
okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions carried. Thank you. And the next is the profit and loss.
Okay,
Report of
below the-
treasurer.
right below the invoices, we have the profit and loss budget performance. And I would direct your attention to the follow in the first column, the March 2021 is the activity for the month of March. And we got 13,800 in income. Do you know what project that was related to, Tracy?
I believe that was the Mac Studios.
Okay. Great. So year to date through the end of March, we've got 194,000. I'll repeat this again, 194,000 of income. Our budget is 50, but we're projecting a number much higher than that based on what the activity is going to be. So again, I reiterate that it's a solid year in terms of the numbers on the March 21 column, the first column on the left-hand side. Marketing and promotion relates to expenditures for the website. So far this year, substantial profit, and it's actually going to be higher. You can see in that middle column, January to March 21, we have net income of 178,000. And so I just will keep an eye on expenses, and hopefully the numbers will continue as positive as they are. Other than that, I have no comments on the balance sheet. I would mention that in the audit presentation last month, they talked about the fact that a couple of the pilot payments were due to be paid in 2021 for 2020. It appears that those payments have all been made now. That is correct. All the pilot payments have been made.
Yes.
So again, a very solid cash position. You can see, I just pointed out that if you look on the balance sheet, March 31/21, the cash is 343,000. This time last year it was 88,000. So the improvement is 254,000. Again, I mentioned that only from the perspective of the fees we're earning and the fact that we are in a position, if we have opportunities for investment, that we have some room to do that. I would say to Tracy, and this is always for my information, with the income so far this year, our contract services for the county will be paying that additional amount, I would expect, right? For the
Yeah, there will be a certain, at the end of the year, the fee share will exist again. I imagine it'll be something close to what it was last year, if our projections are right.
So the fee share doesn't show up until the fourth quarter then, huh?
Correct. We do it at year end, so we can account for all of the expenses for the year.
Okay, very good.
I have a question.
Yeah.
All of the pass-throughs have been paid?
Yes. Yeah, that's on the,
And
on the,
we're showing, 198,000 on unrestricted. I'm assuming that unrestricted is not any to deal with any of the pass-through payments. Should we be moving some of that money into the savings?
yeah, well, I'd asked that question, and again, I think, yeah, we could, and I would guess we're going to get, what about 0.5% on those savings?
Something like that. Yeah.
That'll cover cutting the grass or something at the industrial park. So,
Well,
Yeah. If we're going to do a sizable transfer, I'd just like to get a motion and approval for it.
okay. Do you want to
Well,
at this meeting?
first of all, I want to clarify that we have nothing in the immediate future that, so that we don't have to put it in savings and then pull it back out again. You know, I mean, it's not making any money in the checking account. 0.5% is, you know, a plus.
That's exactly right.
And I feel more comfortable having it in savings. But if we have anything that that may have to go to, then it doesn't make any sense to take it out. If in fact that's not the case, I would put the motion on the floor to move 100,000 to the savings.
I would second that.
Is there any discussion, please?
I would just say that, we'll have some expenses from the website. We've got some payables. Those are the bills we're talking about tonight, of about 13,000. I think 100 is a prudent amount to put in there.
Yeah, I think that taking a look at that, what we are going to have coming up, we've got another $12,000, or I'm not 12, $6,000 to TGW. We've, there's our payment to CETA. So we need to have money in the checking account. Tracy, do you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, because once we close with Courier, we'll have another admin fee coming in too, so.
Okay. So if there is no further discussion, all those in favor of moving 100,000 into the savings?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions carried. Thank you. Anything further on the profit and loss?
Nothing further from me.
Okay. The balance sheet. Did you want to go through that, Roger?
Well, I cover a couple of things, I like to say my comments on the balance sheet, simply that, in fact, it kind of dovetails with what you've just talked about. The checking and savings number is substantially up from last year, reflecting the positive year in 2020 and continued positivity in 2021. So that you can see that the checking savings has increased from last year by 254,000. So again, we're in a position to move that money. And one, I guess, technical comment is that the bonds receivable related to Bluefield and its related costs are being kept on our books, but were removed from the financial statements because it's no longer required for financial reporting that information be disclosed on our balance sheet.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, is there a motion to accept the profit and loss budget performance and balance sheet?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the updated marketing plan timeline. Tracy, did you want to address that?
Yep, so I'll start and I'm going to have Devin pipe in a little bit as we go. Oh, there she is. So we've been working with TGW to kind of finalize content for the brand, and the plan at this point is to launch next week. The launch factor or the launch program would include a press release, a bunch of content getting out into the community, and just a lot of chatter around the brand to kind of officially get it out into the community and out into the world. I do know that people are seeing a lot of it already. For those of you who remember Bruce Sherman, I did see him today and he mentioned that he's been seeing a lot of the brand on his LinkedIn. So it's already getting out there. And this will kind of be the official launch. Another component is that we would redirect the AIDA URL to the new site. So before we did that, I wanted to make sure the board was comfortable with the new site and didn't have any concerns about doing that quite yet. But then Devin, do you want to talk a little bit more to the new timelines and the launch?
Yeah, so the 27th is the expected launch. We have put together a press release that we're going to send out to our local audiences as well as our regional audiences or regional news outlets. And even some folks down in New York City. We have some media with the New York Times, some contacts that TGW sent over. So that's next week. There is, like Tracy mentioned, a social schedule already in place on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. So you may have seen it out there in the ether already.
Okay.
I do have a timeline document. And then Gavin from TGW is also working on the bullet list or the bullet points for the board for the launch. So we should have that this week that we can send out to everybody. So you all have some consistent messaging should you be approached regarding the brand. We talked about that. I believe we met with them yesterday, and he was going to work on getting that done this week prior to the launch so that we could provide that to you ahead of the press release going out. And then, let's see what else. Oh, this timeline is so small. The words are so small. I was going to share it, but it's going to be impossible for you to see. You know, so, but they are taking into account an organic social program, paid media, potentially email marketing, capturing folks into a sign-up list for us to then direct emails to. And, you know, as the podcast is already out there, and we do anticipate that they'll start to look at the metrics from the site, probably not this month, but next month after the launch. And they'll start to be recording those metrics and reporting back on those metrics of the brand reach at that point, once it's really out there into the world and we really are promoting it. Because right now, just about everything is organic. So those metrics will start coming in the coming months after the official launch.
Is that part of the advocacy program?
The advocacy program, so like the ambassador program. They have that in the timeline for a little bit later in the timeline. They put that down towards
Third quarter.
more late summer. Yep,
Yeah.
the third quarter. So we'll be looking to work with them on that over the next few months to develop that program. But
So
yeah,
my question was, what you were referring to, is that going to flow into that? Talking about brand?
The brand, yeah, so it's all going to be part of the branding effort. So the messaging that we use in that advocacy program and the ambassador program will be similar to, I imagine, the messaging that you're going to see as board members in the brand. But then also we'll make sure that we are working with those ambassadors to make sure that they have a good understanding of what is available in the community, so that they're being consistent in how they're working with potential businesses and residents as well. So, but it will all be tied into the brand.
Okay, thank you.
Right, Devin? Does that make sense? Okay.
That makes sense, yes.
Does anybody have any questions on this? I thought that was an excellent explanation from both of you. It's heartening to see it moving forward as well as it is. Good work.
Yeah. We're throwing around all sorts of other ideas for the future of this brand too. Like, this takes up a lot of our thought time because we're just so excited about doing this and what this could lead to down the road. So we're also, you know, even starting to think about, you know, what's next for the brand, but we probably shouldn't get ahead of ourselves.
Okay. Very good. Moving on, the CETA staff update.
Lots of stuff here. So some of the key items for that this group should be aware of. Just open this real quick. I thought I made some notes. So we just wrapped up the micro enterprise program. We did have 6 participants finish the program, and we were able to secure funding for this round so that they would each be eligible for the maximum grant amount. So we're working through that paperwork now. There was some additional stuff that came over that we need to work through before we can actually get the grants into their hands. But we were able to put the funding together for this group to create an equal amount of funding for everybody. I think it ended pretty well, and we learned a lot through the process, but these are some really great entrepreneurs and some great businesses. I know some of you were at the last session where they did their pitches, and there was definitely some nerves. Doing this is hard, and especially when you're talking to a group of people you've never seen before through Zoom and explaining what you want to do with your business. So there was definitely some nerves going on, but overall they did a great job and they had really good things to say about the program. And I think we can only make it better for next time. So we're certainly putting together a package of what we can do better, what other types of services we can include into the program, and what kind of funding we would need to do that. So that package is coming together now as we're also finishing up the other paperwork, and we're looking forward to doing that again and expanding it, including the city of Auburn obviously, but expanding it to the county. But all in all, I think it was a great first go. It could have been a disaster, and it wasn't, so we love it. And they're really great businesses in that bunch, and we'll make sure to do some promotion of those businesses in a little broader context as well. The DRI Small Project Grant Fund, we had the 5 projects that are already in the works, and we're working through that paperwork, but we just last week launched the DRI or the application for round 2. I believe Taylor sent that out to everybody, so please do share that. Again, that's within the DRI boundary, so it's a very limited section of Auburn that's eligible, but we are seeking applications. We're going to have 2 information sessions. Those 2 sessions are exactly the same. We just wanted to offer it twice for people scheduling and being able to get it on their schedules. So we'll be offering 2 information sessions for potential applicants. We're also offering a review deadline again, and the final application deadline will be, I believe, June 4th. So we'll be looking for projects that are looking to start closer to the fall, or even projects that are looking to start next spring. We don't really want someone who's looking to get to it in June, because that's not how this process works. There's a pretty long lead time with the paperwork and the different checklists and things that need to be done. So again, looking for projects for fall or even spring of next year, but we definitely want the projects to be completed by the end of next year. So just keep that in mind. We do have a job opening. Ashley, our communications coordinator, has put in is resigning for personal reasons, and that position is our part-time. They do reception at the front desk. They do social media, email marketing. So if you do know anybody who is looking right now and is interested, send them our way. The job descriptions are on our websites. We also have them out on Indeed. So I put it out into the CCC portal for jobs for their students. I sent it down to Wells, so trying to cast a net. It is a decent stepping stone position. We certainly don't want it turning over every 6 months, but someone looking to get some experience for a couple of years, this is a good opportunity. Maybe if they're doing online coursework or going to school part-time, this could be a good opportunity. The one key thing is that we do, the ideal schedule for us does have afternoon hours. So, it wouldn't necessarily be the best fit for someone who wants to be home or work in the mornings and be home in the afternoon. So unfortunately, that's just not what works for us for this position. So
What, Tracy, what hours are you looking for, just in case? Because you had sent me an email for former students, and I just wanted to give them a little bit more information.
sure. So our ideal schedule, we can have some flexibility within this, but our ideal schedule is either full days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or a half day on either Monday or Friday, and like 10 to 5, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So kind of those afternoons during the middle of the week are kind of important for
Okay, great.
us.
No, that's fine. That because I am putting feelers out there. I am getting reaching out to some former students that I think would actually be a good job for them.
Yeah, so we can have some flexibility, and we can consider other schedules, but that's what's worked for us in the past.
Okay, great. I'll keep going. I'll keep looking.
Thank you. I appreciate
welcome.
it.
Hey, Tracy,
yes.
quick question on the DRI.
Mhm.
Do you know, there's a couple questions that came to me from some folks, but real quick, I know one of the documents mentioned a total pool of like 570,000. Is that for both round 1 and 2, or round 2, or kind of what
Yep.
the pool is? And
Yeah, so the original pool was 600,000 that was awarded. A portion of it is set aside for administration. So like we incur some costs in this process plus time we can bill back to the program. So the total pool at the beginning was 570. The first round, I think what was the total for the first round? It was no, that doesn't make sense. I put way too many zeros in there somewhere. I think it was roughly half of the funding went out in the first round. But we still have a good amount of funding available. Typically speaking, if it's a building renovation project, the maximum is $70,000, and then for existing business and entrepreneurs, it's $50,000 maximum.
okay.
Wasn't the
and-
total 720,000?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
I don't know why that number sticks in my mind.
And how many went through on round 1, just as far as projects awarded and approved for round 1? Just, I wasn't sure if it was 2 or 3 or 12 or.
So 5 were awarded in round 1.
Okay.
It was 4 building renovations and 1 entrepreneur project. So we are looking for existing business projects. So if someone's looking for equipment or to do some kind of like minor renovations, we still have the ability to do COVID resiliency funding in this pot of money. So that could be an option. So we do need to do some of those projects. So definitely interested in seeing those.
Okay, no, that sounds good. I know there was a few questions around it and wasn't sure. They were trying to get a sense of, how many were the first round, how much is available now, because it's a lot of work to get it put together. And there's some things you do have to do up front, and they were just concerned about time versus kind of probability of some things going through.
Yeah, and I hope that this next round is a little bit more competitive because, we didn't have enough applications in the first round to actually give out all the funds. And that's part of why we're doing a round 2. So hopefully this one will get a lot of applications and be able to, get the whole fund awarded. But there is, I can give you an exact number. 360,000 was awarded in the first round. So there's about 210,000 left.
All right, thank you.
Tracy, are you aware of why you might not have gotten enough applications in round 1? What do you think the factors were that contributed to that?
There were a few potential applicants that reached out, and it was just bad timing for them with the application. It was out in December and due in January. So there was one that they had other applications that they were working on at that point. a couple people said their capacity at that point was just not good. So I think it was partially a timing issue for round one, but it's also, it could have also to some extent been educational in terms of what exactly we're looking for in the applications. So by all means, like, do send people over. Danny is handling the building renovation projects for round two, and Meg is handling the business projects and entrepreneur projects. And they can help people work through the application and make sure that they're only doing what they need to at this stage. But yeah, I think the first round, it was pretty quick. There wasn't a ton of time, and it was around the holidays.
Also, when I look at the nature of the kinds of projects that you want to fund, are you noticing that there are large numbers of people in those categories that are positioned to do the kinds of projects that this money can fund?
I think that's another issue. I think in some ways, when we put this out in December, there was still some financial uncertainty with some of the projects and knowing where they were going to get that money from, because it is a reimbursement-based grant. So knowing how they were going to cover those costs and the match, I think was a question for some projects as well. So we're hoping that maybe at this point, some of that has worked its way out, especially since we're looking at projects that are still a few months out. But I do expect that is a factor for some folks, is just the financial piece of it and being able to commit that much funding to a project right now.
And I just have one final question. Are you observing that the people who are applying are people that are new entrepreneurs in the community? Are they people that are existing entrepreneurs in the community and just looking at this as another way to finance their projects?
So it's a little bit of a mix. I can actually go through the projects if you want, just kind of a brief overview of the 5.
You can talk to me about this offline if no one else is interested in this. I'm just curious. So
anybody want to know about the other what the projects are? Anybody want?
Sure.
I know, Gwen.
Okay, I'll do very quick.
It's
so
fine.
Yeah, I'm
We
interested
wanna
too,
go
Gwen.
home.
Yeah, people are interested. This is fun. So
Thank you for accommodating me, men folk.
I should have just expected to do this. So there are 2 completely residential projects. One is 12 Seminary Street, which is Robin Casper. He has some other residential properties in the city of Auburn, and especially on Seminary Street, and has done a very nice job getting those buildings renovated. So this is kind of a new opportunity for him to fund his next project. And he is including some affordable housing. He's the only project that includes affordable housing. We've got the Bartolotas applied for 16-18 John Street, and that's fully residential as well. So not new to this game at all. Very, very experienced with this type of funding and this type of work. We have 2 other projects that are building renovations. One is the Shepherds. So It's a Great Life is their building company, but their application includes building renovations for the 2nd and 3rd floor to get those back online as commercial spaces, as well as some equipment for the brewery. And then Muldrow Properties, Brian Muldrow is looking to do some probably mixed use, 2nd floor commercial, 3rd floor residential, still finalizing that plan. But that's 123-125 Genesee Street. And that was funded as a building renovation project. And then we're also funding Feast Kitchen, which is a startup company. They, in addition to the DRI grant, received a loan from the Auburn Small Business Assistance Program, both to bridge finance the grant so that they can expend the funds up front and get reimbursed. And that reimbursement will pay off that portion of the loan, as well as some additional loan funding for their startup costs.
Okay.
So those are the 5. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but it's the full spectrum from brand new to very well experienced.
Jim, I've got to run a little early if that's okay. Is that a problem if I leave early?
No, that'd be fine. We have a quorum.
I guess the only question I have is, can I go to wherever Rick is? Because he looks like he's in a much nicer, warmer place than the rest of us.
I know, are those palm trees?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Very nice look, Rick. So
Oh, thank you.
sorry we can't have the movie meeting where you are.
Yeah. Well, come on down.
And
I think that's the first time I've seen you without a tie.
Yeah. It's a trend.
and then, so other than that, the last thing on the list that I want to make sure to just keep you updated on is the supply chain analysis is underway. They're almost done with the first stage of it, which is kind of the broad analysis of the county supply situation. So looking at industries at a very high level so that we can identify a few key industries to focus in on. There's an initial report that's going out to our CEDA Long Range Planning Committee, and the board will get a presentation next week. So that is moving along. That should be wrapped up by the end of the year. And where I'm interested to see where it goes. There's some interesting stuff in there. So, but that's very much underway.
Okay, anybody have any questions on the staff update? Moving on, the fiduciary acknowledgement reminder.
Yep. Taylor, I don't know who you're missing, but just a reminder, if you haven't sent that fiduciary form signed back to us, to please take a look at it. It is in the packet, page 15 of the PDF packet. Just go ahead and sign that if you haven't yet and get it back to Taylor. You can just scan it.
Please.
You have half. Taylor has half, so we still have a few out there.
Please get those in. Okay. The Prison City lease subordination resolution.
Do you want me to take that?
Yes,
Tracy?
please.
Okay. So Prison City is refinancing some of the debt that they used to for their project, and it's $1.7 million refinanced through Empire State Certified Development Corporation. So this document is what Empire State Certified Development Corporation has asked AIDA to sign to recognize the mortgage that they'll be putting on the property.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is pretty standard stuff. I mean, I think the key points here is that it subordinates AIDA behind them in the lien process, but we don't use our lien for collateral purposes, so it doesn't concern me much. So,
correct.
Yeah.
Lots of times, the more normal way of doing it is we just sign on the mortgage, non-recourse. These guys do it a little differently, but it's the same legal effect.
Does that have to be notarized?
When we actually sign the document, yes.
Okay.
You don't have to notarize anything right today.
Okay.
Oh, we get to do one of those video notary sessions.
Yeah,
Right.
they're fun. Okay.
Yeah, real thrilling.
Yeah.
Watching Jim sign documents.
Right.
We should really live stream it.
Okay, moving on, the Nolan blocks.
Well, I think you need resolution approving the lease subordination. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Where the hell is it? Okay, there's a resolution from the agency lease subordination agreement between Empire State Certified Development Corporation, Auburn Industrial Development Authority, and Prison City Farmhouse LLC, and Prison City Beverages LLC. Is there a motion?
Moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Daisy,
Yes.
Mr. Andre,
Aye.
Ms. Lover McLeod,
Aye.
Mr. Gasper,
Aye.
Mr. Cuddy,
Aye.
Mr. Beer, Ms. McIntyre,
Aye.
Mr. Giantino,
Aye.
Mr. Gravis.
Aye. Okay, so moved. Moving on, the Nolan Block ST60 extension and resolution.
This is also pretty commonplace. We had, I got a call from Peter Kyle. They got a little delayed on some of their construction. They're looking for an extension to the time that they can use their sales tax exemption until the end of this year. And it's no new benefit. It's just an extension to the ST60 so they can continue to use that sales tax benefit that they were already approved for. The letter and the resolution are in the packet.
Okay.
Tracy?
Yes.
Is there a limit to the extensions that somebody can request for this?
Rick?
Yeah, so the AIDA board, it's in the AIDA board's discretion. So, I mean, theoretically, it could go on, forever. At some point, the AIDA board would probably say, hey, finish your project and be done with it. But no, there's no legal time limit on the extensions.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
I can't remember a time when there's been more than one.
More, yeah, usually,
Um,
I agree, yeah.
Can I ask how this is different from Health Central?
What do you mean?
So Health Central has taken additional, they've started additional projects on top of their original, correct?
Yes.
Because we've
They've
talked,
gotten like extensions to their pilot agreement. This is only for the sales and use tax,
okay,
and there's no additional dollar amount that you're approving. It's just a time extension.
Timing, right.
And there's no pilot involved. Nolan Block doesn't have a pilot.
I know that. Yep, thank you.
I think that and that we had discussed that they would be requesting an extension ahead of time, but they didn't want to do it at that time because they hadn't received the commitment that they were expecting for the third floor. I think that we were made aware of the fact that they might be coming back to us. The medical building. Just for historical purposes. Okay? Now, we need to
So there's a resolution there.
Yeah.
A resolution approving the extension.
I'm about ready to. The resolution approving the grant of financial assistance through the extension of an exemption from all state and local sales and use taxes with respect to the Nolan Block LLC project until December 31st. I'm going to add that until December 31st, 2021.
Right.
Because they said till the end of the year. But I think we should add that in there to be specific.
I think it's in the resolution.
Is it? Okay. Because it wasn't in the title part of it, so that's why.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Right on the top of page 2 of the.
Yeah, so section 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes,
Right.
section 1 of the resolution.
It's been clarified then, okay. Then resolution as read minus the date. Is there a motion?
Moved.
Jeff?
Moved. I'll
Second.
second.
Who was that?
Terry, second.
Great, okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion on this? All those in favor? Oh, well, let's do a
Aye.
roll call vote.
Mr. Daisy,
Aye,
Mr. Andre,
Aye.
Ms. Weber McLeod,
Aye.
Mr. Gasper,
Aye.
Mr. Cuddy,
Aye.
Mr. Beer, Ms. McIntyre,
Aye.
Mr. Gianatino,
Aye.
Mr. Gravis.
Aye.
okay, thank you. The next item is the AIDA CCIDA draft RFP for audit services.
Okay.
Uh,
This got somewhat complicated last night, but bear with me here. So it is traditional for the IDAs to go out every 3 years for RFP for audit services. We have been with Buffington Holdland for the last 3 years. The last time we RFP'd, we did do it jointly with CCIDA just to see if there are any cost savings by doing both together. We found, and when we did that process, it's, the auditors that are sending proposals from out of town, we see a cost savings because it saves on the travel, but, with the local folks, there's not much of a savings there because there's not a travel cost there. Anyway, so it is time to, for a new contract for audit services. We've expired the 3 years. The RFP was in the packet to review just to get approval to send it out. Last night, CCIDA took a look at this, and where they landed was to offer Buffington and Holdland a 1-year extension, assuming that they do it at the same cost as 2020. And if they're not able to do that, then to go ahead and put the RFP out. So that's where we are with CCIDA. But AIDA is also a party to this process. So we can put the RFP out. We could look at the same conversation with Buffington Holdland or some other agreement with Buffington Holdland. I will say there is typically a small increase from year to year, just inflationary increase from year to year. So that would be part of the conversation with Buffington Holdland if you wanted to go that direction.
Now, they said that they wanted to keep the price the same for the next year. Hasn't there been a yearly increase?
Yes. They drive a hard
But
bargain.
they didn't take that into consideration.
They didn't. Well, I don't want to say they didn't take it into consideration. I think they're looking for a deal.
Yeah.
A little bit.
The only thing, well, we can put this on as a motion and then discuss it. Then the motion would be to extend whole Buffalo or hoteling and
Buffington and Holdland.
Buffington Holdland for 1 more year at the existing 2021 cost. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, with the addition of, if that doesn't work out, to go ahead and RFP it.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, then we would at that time put out a proposal for auditing services. Is there a motion on the floor? Or a vote? I put a motion on the floor. Can I have a second, please? Okay, Brendan. Discussion. One of the things that I see as advantageous in having the same auditing service is the fact that it makes it so much easier for you and the office to work on these, instead of trying to deal with two different entities. It's much easier to work with the one. So that would be a definite advantage as I would see it. And even if we put it out for proposal, if Buffington and Hoagland don't agree to that, I think that that's something that we really need to look at to make sure that, because that's, to me, important for your staff to be working with the same people, and it just goes so much smoother.
Yes, no, that's very true. And I'd say that it's also, for the first 2 years of a new audit firm, they're still learning our books and they're still getting used to what we have in our system. So a 3-year contract, they're just getting into the swing of it by the time we're RFPing again.
Is CETA, how long does CETA have with the Buff? Their contract isn't up, right?
The CETA Chamber CSS is, they've already done a 1-year extension by default because I forgot to RFP it last year. And we'll be looking at the fee schedule proposal at the meetings next week.
Okay.
Can I ask, isn't this just putting off the inevitable? Why would you just not RFP it now? Am I missing something?
It's not unusual to extend a contract like this if you're satisfied with the services, and, the RFP process itself is for both us and the responding firms, is a process. So, if we're satisfied with the services that we're getting, it's not unusual to extend a service like this for a year just to kind of squeeze another year out of the contract.
I would also point out that 3 years ago, when we put this out for proposal, we had a very difficult time getting responses to it. And they were all over the board with the costs too. So
Yes.
it may be much easier at this juncture with everything that's going on in the world to go with a year extension.
Yes, and I also know that the industry is reeling a little bit right now with the way that some of the extensions to the tax deadlines have happened, and everyone's understaffed. Everything has taken longer than they expected this year. So I would say, I think it's also, we might not see a lot of proposals come back because this year's, everyone's still kind of coming back and reestablishing after everyone was upended, and everyone's understaffed. And then the other thing I will say is Buffington and Hoagland was the only local firm we got a response from last year, or last time we did it. So, there is also a matter of, how often do we want to be asking these out-of-town firms to respond to something when we clearly have a local bench?
I
Well,
would say having a year extension would be good given the circumstances you mentioned, but also noting we should open it up to other firms at some point in that,
Yeah.
You're right, this year's a little off, and it'd be giving the extensions. I think it would be hard for somebody to respond to this RFP given they're still in the midst of doing their
Taxes.
daily jobs. Yeah, they're just not going to get responses. So I agree. But I also would like to see, as somebody who bids on projects, I like to see that something is out there to bid on. So let the dust settle a little bit, but let the opportunity open up again next year in case there are other firms that are interested in the business. So.
Tracy, I thought I heard you say the 2020 price, and then I heard Jim say 2021 price.
Yeah, so it would be the price for the 2020 audit that we paid in 2021.
Yeah, that's what I meant
to
Katie.
clarify. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Tracy, I sit on the CETA board, but so if, and when the CETA board did their extension, did they ask them to hold their price in the same level?
So what we did just recently was basically asked Buffington Holton to provide a 3-year fee schedule before we RFP'd. And we just got that fee schedule back, and we'll be looking at that next year, or not next year, next week. For 2020, the 2020 audit, we didn't do much in that case. We hadn't RFP'd, so we just went ahead and did the extension with the understanding of the normal increase that happens.
And what percentage is the increase over the previous year? What is it? What's the average?
For most, for AIDA, I think it's typically like $150 or $200 a year, I think is typically the increase. So I don't have a percentage. I think it's pretty standard at a set amount.
So am I understanding that the CCIDA wants them to hold their price at their last fee level over a difference of $150 to $200? Is that what I'm getting? I'm just trying to get it.
Yes.
Basically, yes.
Well, between us family, I think that's rather ridiculous to ask this firm, but I don't know. I think I know them well enough that they might not quibble over the dollar amount. There just might be I might have a reaction to that based on principle, but I think that there's value in, I thought we were talking about thousands of dollars more. I think there's value in presenting them with this. And let me just ask this question. So if the firm says no, does that mean that CCIDA will put an RFP out without us? Would they go get somebody else to do their own audit?
Potentially. I mean, they would
do that.
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think that's the point. I don't think the point necessarily is to separate it. I think it's just, I think they're almost seeing it from a perspective of, if we're going to do the 1-year extension, it's convenient for everybody. It's almost like a convenience kind of.
There's a fish that's very popular in restaurants around here at this time of the year. If you know what I'm talking about, it's called bullheads. And I think that's what they're being.
Regardless, AIDA does not have to follow that same structure in their motion. If AIDA wants to say, hey, Buffington Holton, if you'll do it for your normal increase, we'll do the 1-year extension. That is an option for AIDA as well. You don't have to follow CCIDA's lead on the set price.
No, but I think CCIDA has to realize also, take your part of the equation into consideration.
Yeah.
So I'd be willing to do that, and I just have a problem with going out and going for another RFP because I have a gut feeling what's going to happen in the end is it's going to be local. We've just have not been, actually, I say last 3 years ago, but it's been the trend for the last 2 or 3 times we put out RFPs that we just are not successful in getting good bids in. So people, we're too small for some companies. They don't, that's not their niche, is to deal with these small economic development groups. So
here's my position on it, Tracy. I think from a doing business point of view that it's in the best interest to try to keep the same firm doing both of these projects for the reasons that Jim is expressing. I just think it's easier for your team to manage. I also hear what Jeff is saying is that if we do it for another year, I'm comfortable with that. And if just out of principle, we should put it out the bid after this year. You know, we could talk about that again. I'm not opposed to that. And I feel some kind of way about asking them not to do their traditional increase, especially if it's $200 more. However, I think that Elaine and her team are smart enough businesswomen to make that choice for themselves. And if they're willing to do it, and we're talking about a 1-year extension, and it's okay with them, then I can be comfortable with that. So I'm offering that we go to present this situation to them and see what they say. And then if it looks like it's going to be significantly disruptive, then we might need to talk about letting CCIDA go do whatever they're going to do. Sorry, Trace. Could go down like that. Or we just, you know what I mean? Or we hold our ground about that. So I can support not going out for an RFP, offering them up an extension, presenting this situation to them and see how they react. And then we can go from there.
Billy, has this been helpful?
Yes,
Bill?
it is pretty much kicking it down the road.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
Bill Andre there?
Yeah, I used to like playing kick the can when I was a kid. Yeah, I think it's good. Good conversation. I appreciate it. Yep, I understand the reasoning.
I just want to say, I agree with everything that's been said here, and I don't feel overly great about asking them to do this without their normal price increase. Because I just know from a business perspective, I can tell you there isn't a day that goes by in the business that I'm in where we're not paying more money for something. I think we're putting them in kind of a weird position, but by saying that to them.
It just makes me laugh. To be blunt, I think it's offensive, but you know, I hear you, Jimmy.
Well, so I just looked at the fee schedule. It is typically, for the last fee schedule over the 3 years, it was $150 increase a year. The 2020 quote was $6,500, which I think we just discussed is where we landed. Is that right? So, you know, we could, I would be very comfortable, you know, amending the motion to say, you know, if you can do it for, you know, 6,650, which is the typical increase, then we're good.
I'm personally more comfortable with that.
Yeah. My gut feeling is that the county is going to, whatever they come back with, is going to go with a 1-year extension. And, you know, I really have a problem tying us into that, because that's what they're doing is, you know, I just don't agree with what they're doing there. You know, it's only they're nickel and diming it, and that's not necessary. We've been very successful with this company. They've done a great job for us, and I don't think anybody knows any more than Tracy and the team how much that they do that they're not even charging us for. I mean, they do a lot of extra work for us, and they've been very helpful. So I think that kind of loyalty warrants, my recommendation is we amend the motion that we go and ask them for a year's extension. And if they come back and say it's going to be $200 more, then that should be fine. If they come back and say it's $1,000 more, then we need to discuss it further. We're not tied into anything. We're just asking them what it would cost for a year's extension. Does everybody feel comfortable doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yep.
Yes.
I'll amend the motion that we go out to Buffington and Holland and ask them for a year's extension and have them come back to us and tell us what it's going to cost. Okay?
I support that, and I think that's the proper way to conduct business.
I agree.
As I would with
I
any
agree.
I agree as well.
Great.
Okay. That's why I was a negotiator for so many years.
So that
If
was an
there's no
amendment to the
further
motion.
If there's
With-
no further discussion, let's, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions carried. Thank you. Any board members have updates that they wish to bring up at this time?
Gwen, I've got your magazine.
Thank you.
I'm gonna get Danny's copy and I'll drop it in the mail to you. If anybody hasn't seen it, we put it on CETA's social media. There's a very lovely article about Ashley.
Oh, nice.
Oh, how wonderful.
I did see that. It was great.
Thank you.
Oswego Business, County Business Magazine. So we'll get these in the mail to you. Proud
Oh,
mama.
that's wonderful.
I
Wonderful.
appreciate that, Tracy.
And then I think, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I don't have anything else. If there's no other members that wish to discuss, then we'll move on. If you'd cover the upcoming events.
Yeah, so one other thing I just wanted to point to in the packet, I won't do this every month, but occasionally I'll do this, it's on page 13 of the PDF. This is just a list of those performance goals we put in the mission statement that we approved, I think it was last month, and kind of a progress to date on where we are in those. So I'll occasionally throw those into the packet just to keep everybody up to date on where we are in this. Maybe on a quarterly basis, I'll do that. So just take a look at that in the packet. Upcoming events, there are some ABO trainings in April. I think that everyone is up to date on their training at this point, but if anyone wants a refresher, please keep an eye on those. We've got a few educational seminars coming up. A couple of things that are not on here is we did reschedule our public affairs forum regarding the Lake Ontario Marine Sanctuary with Ellen Brody from NOAA. So that's coming up in May as well. And we are having a Q&A with Dan Rickman from the SBA regarding the Restaurant Revitalization Fund that was part of the most recent COVID relief package. That application should be going live in a few weeks. They're testing the portal over this week and next week. And if things are ready to roll out, it should be right around May 3rd that goes live. Might be a little bit after if they run into any or need to tweak anything. But that's the May 3rd at 11 a.m. and the registration is on the Chamber's website. If you know any restaurants that would like to participate, hear about the program, ask questions. It's just a good opportunity to get out of the guidance documents and have a live discussion about the program. I think that's it.
Okay.
Jim, if I could say something real quickly, I did have the opportunity to attend the micro enterprise pitch event because a couple of my mentees were in there pitching away. And I think it was a very dynamic program. These young entrepreneurs have some really interesting businesses coming up in the community. I think most of them, they're going to go through their 5-year cycle, but I think most of them were positioned for success. And I think from our perspective, the feedback was that experience was life-changing and business altering. And so I think we're really onto something with that. And I'm glad, Tracy, we were able to come up with the funds to give everybody a little something to get their businesses going. And so I think that's really exciting. And then just something I mentioned at the CETA board meeting, I think that when there's ever an opportunity, it might be interesting to pull those of us that are sitting on the economic development boards in the community together, sometimes just to talk about important issues. So one of the conversations we had at the joint chamber CETA meeting was about how folks, the concern is that people are making more money on unemployment than they are and their employers, and so there's resistance to go back. And it led down this very interesting path. But as someone who's sitting and looking at this from an economic development perspective, I think it's important for us to take a look at that issue. Because I know a lot of people on unemployment. It's not that they don't want to go back to work. I think it also begs the question, what do we need to look at in our county to move employees closer to a living wage that lets them really have a sustainable life? And I don't think we need to problem solve around that necessarily yet, but I think it would be really interesting to disaggregate some data and really take a look at what's playing into that decision, so that as we need to help folks that we support address that issue, that we're doing it from a place of data and not a place of perception, perspective, or opinion. So
I would
we're
point
taking my
out,
TED talk.
I would point out that as far as the unemployment goes, one of the problems that has risen out of that is that all of the labor departments in all 50 states negated the requirement that you be looking for a job in order to maintain your unemployment. And that was certainly an honest thing to have in place when there were no jobs. People couldn't go out and look for a job. And if they didn't find jobs, lose their unemployment. But now that there are jobs available, there's only 2 states that have reinstated that obligation in the Labor Department, that a person that's on unemployment must be looking for a job and must document that they're looking for a job. And so what's happening, and then certainly it's not everybody, but there are a certain group of people that are out there saying, I don't have to go looking for a job. I'm making $600 a week. Why would I go looking for a job? And it's become a problem. If you drive down the street, you see these signs, now hiring, now hiring, now hiring, and they're having difficulty. And if you talk to people that are in business, they're having trouble hiring people. Restaurants are having trouble getting staff back. What they need to do is they need to reinstate that part of the regulation and get things back to where they should be. That is part of
this is
part of the problem.
this is a multi-pronged issue,
Yeah, it's
covering
part of- I
that,
said it's part
covering
of the problem.
childcare, covering, it is a very multi-pronged issue, and we're talking,
But
you know,
that is
but-
an important part of that overall issue.
If I may, to the point that, I mean, I guess the same issue that you and Gwen are referring to. I think the big thing that we could do as AIDA is ask ourselves, how can we help the situation? And I know that Gwen would like us.
Uh-oh.
I've never seen Terry speechless.
You turned to
Available.
the
I
stone.
want to know what he thinks I want to do.
Yeah.
Terry,
you
you
froze,
froze
you
up.
froze up.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
What does Gwen want to do?
Well,
What do I want to do?
well, the idea of looking at the available jobs and addressing the issue of making sure that these jobs are good jobs for people to go back to. And I think that that's really important. And the other thing is there may be good jobs available, but there may be some either training or messaging that can get to potential employees that perhaps somebody like AIDA can help, or work with Cayuga Works to do some ancillary training or some kind of public communication to let people know about the jobs that are available, or I should say good jobs that are available, because that really is one of the things that we're doing. Tracy, you posted the our performance goals to date, and I was happy to see Mac Studios employees and Courier employees have those jobs been, those jobs have been filled? They're good paying jobs. We can help fill those positions as AIDA. At least I think we can think of ideas that to get people in those positions. But I agree with Gwen. It's like, we want to promote jobs that are going to be meaningful to the people to get back to work.
Can I just-
I'm sorry, Bill, if I could just say this really quick, that's part of what I'm thinking about, Terry, but the other thing is I'm thinking about from a positioning and a decision-making point of view around these kinds of issues. And I don't mean for us to kind of do the workshop now. I'm just offering for consideration that it's my experience that when community leaders have to think about issues pressing the community, the more we can identify where we're on common ground philosophically about how to address the issue, sets all of us up to be working in our respective entities from a position of shared understanding about what we want to do, because this issue is complex. Know that I get that, right? But the piece that I think is missing in our community, at least from my observation, is opportunities to gather us up just to think about it and to talk about what matters and what we would want to do and how we want to see our community be, so that as we're making tough decisions, we're at least kind of moving the needle in a similar direction. And that's all I was offering for consideration when it's important that I think if the CETA board, the AIDA board, and the chamber share a common interest in improving the economic position of the community and the people in it, it's helpful to me if I know what other people are thinking about it. That's all I'm saying. Y'all can vote me off the board any minute. I'm just saying. I'm home thinking about these things, people. But so that's all I was offering, just creating those educational opportunities to gather all of us who are focused on improving our community's economic position to talk about these overarching issues so we can kind of figure out where we are. I'm sorry, Bill. Thank you for allowing me that.
Does anybody else have anything else they wish to bring up at this time? Okay, motion to adjourn. The next meeting will be May 19th at 5 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Jim? Second, Brandon?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?